Hello, I'm Lee Marshall. The accent gives it away. I'm from London. It's my first time in Montreal, and I have a variety of roles. I have a day job, which is Chief of Staff of the Church of England Pensions Board. I'm one of the executive directors in the central administration of the Church of England. But also I have a sort of outside interests in that I am the chair of the Diversity Project charity. I was the co-founder, or one of the co-founders of Stonewall in the 1980s alongside Ian McKellen and Lord Michael Cashman. And I have chaired a wide range of diversity bodies throughout the years.
Well, Lee, thank you so much for making the trip and coming and joining us here.
It's
a real honor to have you. And I'm really excited for this conversation. I'd love to start with, this month is Pride Month. What does Pride Month mean for you?
Oh dear, Pride means so much to so many people. It's a time when people can be themselves, but they don't have to worry about it. Coming through the airport tonight, they asked me what I was going to come and do. So I said, I'm here for Pride Month. I said, I'm coming to give an interview about Pride Month. And told them exactly what it was. And they went, oh, that's really good. Now that's really positive. Yeah. Pride Month is a lot more than just rainbow washing your logo. Yeah. It really is, it's a chance for people to be themselves, to celebrate what's already been achieved and actually to look forward and say what still needs to be achieved.
Yeah. But imagine the excitement of a young gay man or woman in Montreal. It's their first Pride, and all of a sudden they see hundreds, thousands of people just like them on the street celebrating, being themselves. Incredibly exciting. Or that they can walk around. When I came in from the airport tonight, there were rainbow flags, there was rainbow material all over the place. Yeah. And that is exciting. They can suddenly see that actually they're not alone. Yeah. That they can be themselves. They're not abnormal at all.
Yeah. Well, I often say that I've now lived through 2 pandemics. Of course, we've all lived through COVID, and I lived through the AIDS pandemic as well. So back in the 1980s, the AIDS pandemic happened. There were far too many funerals to go to. It was horrific that you would get a call to say that someone was in hospital and you really had to get there tonight because they may not be there tomorrow. And that did happen to me. I did go and see a friend, said, I'll see you tomorrow, never did.
That's so sad.
And he was in his 30s.
That's crazy.
I was in my 20s at the time. Off the back of that, the government in England decided that there should be a really pernicious piece of legislation that said, it was called Section 28. And Section 28 said that you couldn't promote being gay using public money. Because it just targeted the gay community, didn't target anyone else. Yeah. And there were people coming together from all over the community, not just the gay community, to say, this is really wrong. And they campaigned against it. And there was a concert put on in London called Before the Act, which was before the Local Government Act in Section 28. And it showcased theatre and music that would not be allowed under Section 28. Yeah. It was the very first concert that the Pet Shop Boys gave, because Neil and Chris said that they could not promote their, or could not produce their music in a live environment. They said, we purely have a studio sound, we cannot do anything in a theatre. They appeared that night. Judi Dench appeared, Ian McKellen put the whole show together. And it was one of those great celebratory events. Section 28 was on the statute books until 2003. It remained from 1989, 1988 to 2003 on the statute books. And so the whole generation of young people did not receive positive education about being gay. Yeah. And when the programme It's a Sin came out last year or the year before, a lot of people said to me, young people said, we never knew anything about the AIDS pandemic because we never learnt that in school. It was hidden from us because of Section 28. But a lot of us felt that something needed to be done, and 5 people got together at Ian McKellen's home and said we could do something to produce a professional lobby voice in England. And they then reached out to a number of different people, 20 of us, to say we want to put a group together, 10 men, 10 women, mixed talents, mixed abilities, mixed professions. So it was no good having 20 actors or 20 dentists or 20 doctors there or 20 lawyers. We needed to all come together and from different political persuasions. So they produced this, what was called the Stonewall Group.
Yeah.
And that was formed in 1989, 1990. And I was invited to become their first treasurer and to join their board of directors and be one of the 20. And the group was forming and people were coming in out of it, the way that groups do.
Yeah.
And one of the things we first did was get the government lawyers, sort of when they had some spare time, to pull together what an equality bill would look like for England, showing all the areas of inequality that there were under the law.
Yeah.
And we used that largely as a shopping list. So it was, we could tick things off as something arose. We had an all-party parliamentary group for gay law reform chaired by Edwina Currie. And it came out a long time later that Edwina was having an affair with the Prime Minister at the time, John Major. And things like that. So we did have sort of the era of Downing Street. Ian McKellen was invited to Downing Street. And the way that the legislature works in England is that a bill will come up and you can hang something relevant on it.
Yeah.
You can't, like under the American system, just hang anything on there. With these all-encompassing bills. So if it was a housing bill, you could only hang a housing matter on there.
And that's why the shopping list was so important, because you could go each time for that item.
So we could look and say there's a housing bill coming up, it's looking at local authority housing, there is an issue about succession to tenancies, so let's get that one done now and ticked it off. So there were areas like that to look at. Yeah. Obviously, there were the big ticket items. We had an age of consent of 21 for gay sex and 16 for heterosexuals.
How does that make sense?
It made no sense whatsoever. So there were the big ticket items like that. There was equal marriage, adoption, all of those things. And so we tackled a lot of those and gradually ticked most of them off. Yeah. There's still areas of inequality. You still cannot get married in church. Yeah. There's other areas as well, but the majority of it was ticked off eventually.
And so for a lot of people, I mean, for me, I really only started discovering Pride Month last year, and Jonathan, our Chief Growth Officer, has played a major role in kind of educating me. And for me, something I'd never heard about was actually Stonewall. What is Stonewall, and what is the importance of Stonewall to the Pride movement, and for many people in our organization that may not have ever heard about Stonewall?
For Stonewall, it was the drag queens who led the protest.
Yeah.
They were the fierce ones. So Stonewall was originally a protest, a riot.
Yeah.
It was not something nice.
Yeah.
It happened in New York in 1969. So we took the name Stonewall to give to our group and became a lobby organisation. And we were about changing hearts and minds of people who had the power to make our lives better. But one of our guiding mantras was, this is for the good of wider society too. So actually it was, if people can live their lives fully, then that's going to be beneficial to everyone, because there's not going to be those moments where people are covering what they did at the weekend or hiding that they've got a male partner or whatever. And so there was all of that sort of thing, that it was for wider society.
Yeah.
Often the advice I give people when asked is, don't be complacent.
hard-won rights can be rolled back. We're seeing it in America at the moment with the abortion Supreme Court decisions there, and wondering what's going to come next. Who knows what it could be? But I remember being in California when gay marriage was legal for 6 months.
Yeah.
And then a proposition came in, Proposition 8 I think it was, suddenly came in and outlawed it. And there was the question mark around, are those marriages valid? What happens to those people? And it was ruled that actually they were valid, but there was this tiny enclave of people of the gay community in California who were married, and the rest couldn't, until the Supreme Court ruled that gay marriage was perfectly legal, decent, and honest, and should be allowed. But of course, it's another Supreme Court decision, and of course that could be rolled back in the States again.
If you are kind of a child in school and you realize that you are gay, if it's not a environment where you can express that, it could be there could be major mental health consequences.
Exactly.
And can you speak a little bit to the kind of mental health challenges around kind of youth kind of discovering or realizing that something is different about them, and how in many ways pride and kind of positive movements have helped kind of alleviate some of that.
I've been very privileged to work with a number of organisations over the years. The Trevor Project in LA is one of them, and I work with David McFarland, who used to be their CEO and is now doing work with young sportsmen and women around helping them with their experiences, and also with the Albert Kennedy Trust in London. All of these help young people who are affected. So the Trevor Project is a suicide prevention helpline. It's based in LA and New York, and I have sat in the offices with the team there. It is extremely moving. I don't know how they do it. I could not do it. And they said to me that one of their busiest times that they get calls is after school. When school comes out, kid is at home and the parents haven't come home from work, so they then will pick up the phone. The Trevor Project was very direct with how they would address it, and would sometimes answer the phone with, "You've called a suicide prevention helpline. Are you thinking of harming yourself?" Really extremely direct. And if they believe that the young person is in serious danger, they will reverse trace the call. They will keep the individual on the phone and say someone's about to knock at the door, and rescue them.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Absolutely incredible work.
From our perspective, we're seeing real change here. We're seeing a real movement to add diversity to the boardroom. And what we've seen is that when you add 3 diverse people or more, that really changes the dynamic of the board and makes it much more engaged.
It will change the dynamic because you're getting away from the groupthink.
Yes.
There can still be groupthink in that you may find that everyone went to the same type of school.
Yes.
Or that they all were educated in the same way. We have that with some of the boards in England. It is one of the hidden areas that I found that not only was my board of trustees, the 42% women, the 17%, 18% minority ethnic, all of that, but 75% of them were all selectively or privately educated.
Interesting.
Possibly to do with their age.
Yeah.
But it's that thing of, and their age range, we have people on my board from 35 to, I think the oldest one is 77, 78. He'd probably kill me if I said that, but he would not be happy that I'd go, 75. But it is that thing that it will be around their age, probably their education. But I wouldn't be surprised if some of the younger members were actually privately educated.
Yeah.
So it is that sort of thing that you end up they've all been to the same schools, they may be thinking the same way,
Yeah.
they may have, that sort of experience that they bring in, and 75% is a very large majority on a board of 12.
Yeah. Yeah, and in many ways your education may impact your way of thinking more than a lot of other things.
Yeah.
Very, very, very interesting. What is another issue that you kind of are facing that you'd like to shed light on?
It's an interesting question. There is still so much to do. Full legal equality has mostly been achieved.
Yeah.
Mostly. The issue that now exists is the cultural issue.
Yeah.
Hearts and minds. And that is the difficult one to change because it's so ingrained. What you need to do is show, and Pride shows this, that it is perfectly normal to be gay.
Yeah.
That there is nothing wrong with it, that it is exactly the same as anything else. And gradually, as people have more confidence and grow, that will have the benefit on wider society, and that's how cultural change is achieved.
Yeah. What would be your advice for allies? And how could people like me play a better role in what you said earlier, breaking down those social barriers?
Allies is a really interesting way of being involved with things.
Yeah.
It's a relatively new thing. A few years ago, we didn't really talk about allies at all. For me, allies, if I look at it, it's being what I term an active bystander.
Yeah.
It's not an area. So if you think of the various things that happen on the street, and it might be few months ago, two friends and I were on a London bus, and a lady decided to tell us to repent of our homosexuality. How she guessed, goodness knows. And she went on and on and on about this on the London bus for however many minutes. No one said a thing. No one looked at us. No one said anything to the driver. No one intervened and said to the woman, actually, you're wrong. They don't need to do that. I engaged with her and got a mouthful back. But it was that thing around being, everyone on that bus was a passive bystander.
Yeah.
They didn't do anything about it. And if you think that you see all those videos on social media of someone being racially abused or whatever on the bus, it's that thing that it's not the person who's being the victim of that or the subject of that abuse is taking that video, because obviously you've got your mind on other things and you can't just go, I'm just going to reach for my phone and film this. Someone else is doing that on the bus or the train or wherever. So it is that thing that actually being an active bystander is the person who will either intervene, although that may not be safe.
Yeah.
Sometimes it may just be saying to someone, are you okay? Or if it is on a bus, you could actually go and sit with the person and just pretend you've been old friends, how lovely to see you, I've just come over to sit with you, and actually you're sitting there with them, being next to them.
Yeah.
Or it's a knowing look, or it's actually saying to the person, actually you're bonkers and actually you're completely wrong. There is no need for them to repent of anything.
Yeah.
But it's that, and it's doing that in your daily life. So actually looking out for people.
Yeah.
One of the areas I look out for at the moment, working for the Church of England, we have staff, and this is the central administration of the Church of England as opposed to in churches.
Yeah.
We have staff who there is no requirement to be of faith at all, and there is no requirement to be of the Christian faith.
Yeah.
So I am always looking out for those people who are of no faith or of other faith, particularly with some policies. It's so easy for things to creep in.
Yeah.
And so
And
I am
sometimes
always
not
looking...
ill-intentionally.
Exactly. It's the things where you say, well, we are looking at the values and behaviours that we're expecting in this organisation. And in an organisation like the church, it's easy for someone to say, well, of course, we've got these Christian values and behaviours, and I'll go, excuse me, but we haven't. Cut the word Christian off that, will you? And I constantly challenge things like that. So I'm almost an ally for the no faith at the moment.
Yes.
And it sounds like a bit of a broken record at times in the office. But that's what I'm doing a lot of at the moment, is saying, hang on a minute, we need to reword that. We need to look at that, because that's actually not inclusive.
Well, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for making the effort.
Pleasure. Thanks you for inviting me over here. It's been an absolute joy.